All right, guys, welcome to the first episode of the Unbounded Ambition podcast. I'm Paul Winston. I'm going to be your host. Bear with me here, guys. I'm learning as I go here. I was getting so many questions and inquiries through social media mostly about how I got started in the industry, and even when I'm on set these days, I'm the old guy now. So I'm the guy who's been doing this for a while. So I get a lot of these young kids asking questions, and I remember when I first got into the industry, certain people would try to make you feel stupid for asking certain questions about the industry just because they're brand new. And I remember people making me feel that way. So I never wanted to make anybody else feel that way. So I figured I'd create this platform so maybe I can help some kids out and people and whoever else. And yeah, so like I said, bear with me. Let's see what happens to this. Basically, for those who don't know, I moved to Los Angeles when I was 23-ish, somewhere around there, I want to say. Maybe it was like late 22. But I subjected myself to, the audition game. Every actor goes through it. We all move to LA with these big hopes and dreams, and sometimes it doesn't quite work out the way we want it to. But if you stick with it, you might be surprised at what happens. Basically, I was going on all these auditions and I wasn't booking anything. I got really down and I was dealing with a lot of rejection from the industry, and you're too tall, you're not tall enough, you're too pretty, you're not pretty enough, your nose is crooked, you need a nose job. I actually had somebody on the set of a TV show, Las Vegas. For those that are familiar with that show, it had James Caan for a little while, Tom Selleck was in it, Josh Duhamel was the main guy, the big stud, tall dude. That guy is super tall, by the way. I remember meeting him, and sweet dude, just a really nice guy all the way. But there was another extra on the set with me who was telling me that I had a striking resemblance to Nick Lachey. And I remember taking that as a compliment because Nick Lachey is a good looking guy. I was like, oh, cool. That's makes sense. Yeah, cool. Yeah, marketing kind of look here. I'm good. But then he said, well, you're going to have to differentiate yourself. You need to get a nose job because you look too similar. And I remember just being so young and impressionable that I was like, wow, do I really? First thing I did, I go to the bathroom, sitting there staring at my nose, and I'm looking at it, and I'm seeing, do I need to get and it's like, and I know a lot of people in this industry deal with their own sense of this and their own experiences, and I'm not looking for sympathy, but it can make or break you if you're not ready for it, and it hopefully will help you develop some thick skin. If you want to subject yourself to all this, it's a tough game sometimes. But nonetheless, I did a lot of extra work when I first moved out to LA, which was great, and I highly recommend that for these young actors that are looking for advice and where they should start, basically. That's a great way to start, central casting. I went to central casting and signed up, and they take a headshot of you, and started the audition process, trying to get these roles and whatnot, and I was just getting turned down so much. And at one point in time, I got to about 50. I was keeping track. Got to about 50 auditions, and I didn't book one of the 50. And I went a little bit more than that. I can't remember exactly how much, because that was very unhealthy to keep track of these auditions that I just wasn't getting. And I don't know, it was like I had like this kind of self-deprecating attitude or something at the time, and I didn't quite understand why I wasn't getting booked for these things. And like I said, you name it, I heard it. The too tall, not tall enough thing. But a lot of that kind of just depends on, the casting director and how they're feeling in that day. You never really know. But anyway, all that rejection led me to basically create my own piece. I wanted to create my own work, basically, because I was just at a point where I just didn't know what else to do. And I hit this crossroads, and I was watching a lot of independent film by Vin Diesel. Believe it or not, one of his films, Multifacial, was a short film he made. It was like 20 minutes. And I was completely mesmerized. I was blown away that he could actually do that I could actually do that. So I took the knowledge I gained from that, started surrounding myself with some people that were in the industry or aspiring to be in the industry, and I learned how to write scripts. And I picked this really racy, kind of controversial subject. And the lead character that I played, was the furthest thing from me. So I figured this could be a great way to kind of get out of this pretty boy, jock, bad boy kind of thing that I was mostly pushed into when I was going to auditions. It was usually that category. So here I am. I write myself in the lead role of Shattered Allegiance. Came out in 2009. We shot it in 2008. And I play a skinhead named Sean Rourke, who basically is going through this phase in his life where he hits a crossroads. So it's kind of like Sean and I were mirroring each other in a lot of ways. Obviously, his crossroads were brought about by different reasons than mine were, but I related to him in that sense. And every character that we play as actors, we all know, it's a little bit of you. You may not see it at first, but the further you dig into these characters, the deeper you go, you start to see the similarities in you and that character, no matter who the character is. That's the beauty of acting, and it's one of the major reasons I fell in love with this whole process. But anyway, so we shot Shattered Allegiance. This thing was a short film that cost me, let's see, when it was all said and done, I think Shattered Allegiance, I think the budget was about $20,000. And that was all just me working. I was working at Abercrombie and Fitch. I worked my way up and became a manager within the company so I can make some extra money. And I just started saving up thousands of dollars. And it's crazy when I think back about it now, because all that money, and I remember I had a girlfriend at the time that was very, very, very against me doing that. And I understand, her perspective. She's thinking future, what are you doing? This could be a down payment on a house, and you're out here, fooling around making films, basically, So it's like, she just saw it as kind of like a childhood kind of dream. But that's for another episode. That's a lot of stuff to cover, and it's, I know a lot of us deal with our personal lives that kind of intersect sometimes with our professional lives or what we're pursuing. And a lot of the time, family or friends or a significant other can have a very big impact on how things go for you in your career, and your decision making, of course. But anyway, so Shattered Allegiance, we finished that. It was a major learning experience. I wrote it, directed it, lead actor, producer, of course, and that's when, Unbounded Ambition Films was birthed, 2008, when I needed a name to put down on paper to produce this thing for like taxes and all this other stuff that the city of Los Angeles had required. So I created Unbounded Ambition Films, and I came up with that name because I felt that Unbounded Ambition was, those two words put together, was a direct resemblance of my drive and disposition. Because I was building up, whether I knew it or not, I was building up this resilience, this unbreakable kind of mentality through all these auditions and all these rejections. Shattered Allegiance went on to be nominated for several different awards, including Best American Short Film at a major film festival in Europe. Ended up going on to sell that film for distribution, which was a great experience for me. Now, nothing really came out of that as far as, nothing monetary came out of that. But all the experience that I gained out of that was what really matters. And the money, that comes and goes. That's whatever. But the experience that I gained through this whole process, this whole journey, was the most valuable thing I could have imagined. Now, at the time, I didn't appreciate it like I do now, of course. But that's all a process. I finally got signed with an acting agency. Every time I was falling, whether I knew it or not, I was standing back up, but standing up taller. So every time it was a great experience, whether I looked at it that way or not. So basically in this first episode, what I wanted to talk about was the company, how it was birthed, my career, where I'm at now, and kind of my mentality, which is, again, a direct resemblance of the company name. Everything that in my career that has happened, that's culminated up till now, brings me to where I'm at. And right now we're currently shooting a sci-fi TV pilot called The Walt. Now, this is by far the biggest production I've ever done as far as scale, budget, story, appeal. I mean, visual effects alone in this thing they're crazy. It's ridiculous what's possible. The things that are possible for the independent filmmaker in today's day and age are endless. When I first started, there wasn't so many avenues. Like, the independent filmmaker in this day and age actually has much more room for growth than somebody who's got, is working for the studio. Because the studio is very, very strict on what they're putting out there and who they're putting to work, and as they should be. They have a lot of money at stake there. So, different animal, but at the same time, with Netflix and Amazon Prime and all these streaming services that are out there, The independent filmmaker now has so many different platforms to strive for, to get their work out. So to all those aspiring filmmakers, all those aspiring actors and directors and producers, you guys can do this too. But the key component here is not quitting. Sometimes in the end, the people who just hang on, they just don't quit. Sometimes that's what it takes to win. So, it's not going to happen overnight. It's a major process, and you got to be committed, and you got to be willing to sacrifice short-term pleasure for long-term success. It took me 13 years of labor to enjoy the fruits that I now have and that I'm now attaining. So, looking back now, it's those 13 years that built me, and I continue, the next year and the next year is going to continue to build me, because that's how I want to look at this. I want to look at every failure, every time I fall, as an opportunity to learn, to gain, and to move forward. Those 13 years created in me an unbreakable resilience that, I never would have known I had I not challenged myself. Had I not stepped outside of my comfort zone, I would have never known that I had this, So it's one of those lessons in life, Of course you need certain comforts in life, but if you want to grow, sometimes discomfort is your best friend. The conclusion to this whole episode that I wanted to do here, basically the gist of this is I want the independent filmmaker to know that you can't get caught up in the how, just begin. Start your course of action, and the how will figure itself out. And again, I'm new to this, guys. I just wanted to find some sort of an outlet here to hopefully give back, to help out some of these people that are, aspiring to do this. I get so many questions, I get so many inquiries, I get so many emails and messages on Instagram about how I got started, how do I do this, how do you even, how do you shoot, how do you get somebody, how do you get a location, how do you get production insurance, all of these things I'd love to cover on this podcast. I'd love for this podcast to be an open platform where you guys can send me topics. There's no rules here. There's no limits. You can ask me anything, and I'd love to make an episode on it, and we'll both kind of hopefully learn from each other and help each other out, and eventually we'll get some guests on here and kind of just build from there. Until then, I hope you guys enjoyed the show. unboundedambitionfilms@gmail.com. If you guys want to send any inquiries there, you can always reach out to us on social media as well. On Instagram, it's @unboundedambitionfilms, or my personal Instagram is @paul.winston. All right, guys, hit me up with questions, topics. Otherwise, thank you, and I'll see you on the next one.